I would like to, hear your comments. If any of you have any final comments, I don't know, whatever you want to tell before we jump to the next topic.
So Jesus,
Yep.
as someone who coordinates training, it almost sounds like the program, the discipline, the program chair could help out by providing training to this teacher, this instructor, and saying, hey, just so you know, in our industry, we're now using these new types of teaching tools, or we're using these new types of software. And then the program chair could provide some leadership to make sure there's professional development and training for the faculty to learn these new tools and how to design and use them either in a campus environment or an online environment, right? Because then suddenly this instructor who's been doing things a certain way for 5 or 10 years or more, they're being asked to change their entire pedagogy and instructional approach, which takes time. There's a learning curve. And then, you want to make sure that if they're going to make these changes, that the learning curve is moving in the right direction so that that software is going to be around, the publisher is going to be using it, it won't be sold or bought, purchased by another big publisher. So I can see where this exercise could take us down a path that involves the entire discipline or the entire program and the program chair leadership and professional development coordinator and trainers. So is that where we're going with that?
Can I answer that, Jesus?
Yeah, sure.
It's a good point, Ingrid. You're right. The only thing I would say is that if the rest of your department has been using this, in this particular example, if the rest of the department had been using a particular software and you have one instructor that hadn't really gotten on board, of course we could include any type of professional development and any of our grants to help with that. But it could be an institutional problem or a programmatic issue where we do need to do more training, and that's what we have those funds to do with.
Well, and I know like at our CTE, that's why we have a couple advisory group meetings a year. That's why I go to a monthly meeting with industry. So we're really seeing those trends and what's changing so we can adapt much closer to industry on CTE, on our trade, because our trade is changing so rapidly. So, we're not teaching people to fix what was already built. We're teaching to fix what will be built. So we're really having to constantly move on that, many times ahead of what the book manufacturers are.
All right. Okay, so here are my 2 cents about this. Yeah, the one thing that I was going to say, these are my 2 cents about this particular topic. It would be very important to think, yes, and that is going to be part of the conversations probably that we're going to have once we get to the action plan piece, which is, okay, what is the impact of making a change like this? Is maybe it's not only to my class. Going back to my example, this is the thing. This particular software that I'm telling you about, the R Studio, actually, yeah, younger students might not enjoy it as much, but it is actually one of the most used software at this point for the statistic world, meaning that you need to think, okay, so yeah, maybe young students, they do not enjoy using this, but I'm not sure if, we should make a change, because one, if we make a change and use one of those more friendly software, that is not what they are going to be using outside of the classroom. So I'm not really doing any good to them if I change the software. And on the other hand, say that we decide to change the software. Well, now the problem maybe is going to be with the older students that are used to this kind of software. So you need to think a little about that. And I think that's going to be very, very engaging conversations that we're going to need to have once we get to the action plan piece, because yes, I have successfully identified things that I want to change, but what is the impact about that, right? So is it something that I can change just in my classroom, or is it something I need to have a discussion with some people outside of the classroom? So I really thank you, both of you, for pointing that out. I think that's a very valid point. Okay.
Yeah, Jesus, if I may, that I just want to piggyback on your one comment. For example, in some of my ESL classes, my students will say, hey, I'm really good with using my phone. I know how to text. I can do email on my phone. And I'm saying, yeah, but you need to learn to do word processing, because the better jobs require word processing. Higher paying jobs require you to learn either Google Docs or Microsoft Word or both. And it is a learning curve. And that's why you're here. Is in ESL, we start using those two software so you could, you know, when you go to English composition in academia or your new employer, whatever that is, you're going to have that on your resume. You can use those word processing software. So I see both points, like where I see some students come into my class and somehow they got through high school without learning how to do word processing. And I'm like, okay, well, welcome to school. Let's learn that now. So yeah, so you have to be smart about it. Like Brian said, you have to be in touch with the industry, be in touch with what the jobs are looking for. So yeah, it's a complex process that we're doing here.
Yeah, I think it's a very complex process, because I just thinking of myself, I'm pretty sure if I was a faculty member, I have not been a faculty member ever, but I'm pretty sure that if I was a faculty member and this was my first year teaching classes, I would be ready to change the software just because my students were not able to use it, without even considering all the things that you're mentioning. So I think that that's part of the things that come only with experience, right? Like, okay, understanding that sometimes it's not only, you need to look a little further than, oh, this is going to help my students. You need to really think, okay, yeah, but how is this really going to impact them tomorrow? What are all the other pieces that you need to consider? So I think that's where it's really, really good to have people that has a lot of experience teaching that can really look for those things that some people might not really be aware of.